This is episode 29 with Vinnie Enriquez, team lead of the Enriquez Group and host of Road to Growth podcast. Say your name and what you do.
Chris Widlowski, and I own a business.
Hi, my name is Marisa Cali, and I also own a business. This is the Business AF podcast, where it's all business most of the time. Hey everyone, my name is Marisa. As you know, welcome back to the Business AF podcast, and we have a special guest again this week, Vinnie Enriquez, the team lead of the Enriquez Group and podcast host of Road to Growth podcast. Welcome, Vinnie.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being here. I know we've known each other for some time, but we've never really had this official, like, you come on my podcast. So I'm happy that you're here and we can talk about your business and how it's changed over the time. This is a podcast on YouTube as well as all your favorite audio platforms. So if you are listening, go ahead and hit subscribe. So let's get right into your business. I know that I met you as a real estate agent, but I know you're dabbling into podcasting. So why don't you tell us about your business?
Yeah, so started in real estate maybe 8 years ago. I tell the kind of story that I got into real estate after doing a year in Afghanistan. I was in the construction field before and came back from over there and party for about a month and then just jumped into real estate full time. It's so it was great. Yeah, just door knocking is great. Door knocking, open houses, cold calling. And then I want to say I was like maybe 5 years into it or something like that, or 4 years into it. Yeah, maybe 5 years into it. And I was on vacation in Thailand. Mm-hmm. And so as you know, there's a time difference and everything like that. And I was working, I want to say it was in the morning, or no, I was working in the morning, probably like 3 or 4 o'clock, like that, or maybe 7 o'clock. I forgot the time frame. I was working in the morning, but it was like enjoying myself and then going to work, in the United States. And I was like, man, there has to be a better way. Economies of scale. So I was like, all right, well, I need to bring on an admin. So I had a person for each file, but not someone that consistently. Mm-hmm. And so I brought someone on, and then the idea of economies of scale, you want to bring other agents underneath you to kind of offset the cost and also give that value. So I started bringing platforms to make my life easier, and then slowly transitioning to the idea of, well, if I was going to ever join a team, what would they need to offer me to make my life easier? And so that was the kind of the idea behind it, kind of building these platforms and then slowly kind of bring people to my team.
Yeah, so it sounds like it was like kind of like an agile thing. Like you're just growing and adding people to your team based on the growth of your business, but also, when you realize, okay, I can provide more value in one avenue of my business and then have other people that are more skilled in other things. Do you find that it's hard to find people to add to your team right now?
Yeah, I've always had this tough time. I think in our profession, there's a lot of teams that kind of just bring people on just to bring people on, mm-hmm. without really diving deeper into who they are and what they're doing. I think that's a very tough rabbit hole to kind of dive into, because mm-hmm. if you have that heavy turnover, it doesn't bring that to team atmosphere. And so I've always kind of had that kind of fear of that. Mm-hmm. So I've been kind of slow to bring people on and slow to bring people to the group. And I think I look at it, what can I do for myself, right? Because if I bring on people like me to the team, they're going to want similar things to make their life easier.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but you talk about building the team and being very specific on who you bring on. How do you build that team when you can't even be around each other right now? Do you work on team building like virtually, or is it something that you're just kind of putting on pause until we can get back to some type of in-person stuff?
definitely different being a real estate agent compared to being kind of a team lead. I mean, it's two different totally things. That's something that I've worked on and learned and grown at. Before I looked at it, okay, well, I'm going to offer value of my knowledge that I've kind of accumulated over the years. And I go, well, I have to keep some accountability. That's why they're part of a team. I have to make sure that they're growing as a person. So I started incorporating daily calls with the team members. And then with everything going on here, now we start doing Zoom calls every day and looking to have them grow, keeping them accountable every single day, so they feel like every day they've taken that next level. I mean, taken that next step to the next level. So that's been kind of, I think, the biggest thing. We've also, I mean, we stay connected to social media. We try to make little games of it. Like we have a game right now that who can have the most views on Facebook, and the winner gets basically a $20 gift card that I'll give them. And it could be a funny one. It could be basically a more serious one. But it has to have some kind of correlation of real estate in there. So just kind of small things like that, just to kind of see the personality type of each individual.
Yeah.
Things like that, I think, are very big. And I remember too that in college, and this is not necessarily true with everyone, but for a lot of people, they just want to be heard. They want to feel like they're what they want to do, and what they just want their word heard, kind of thing. Right. So for each team member, I just make sure that if they have something to say or a question, that I'm readily available to help them get to that next stage.
Oh yeah, you definitely embody that like resource hub type role. I feel like knowing you for, I guess I've known you for like a year now, or over a year. And you definitely are always there in terms of having an answer. Do you feel like, do you ever get overwhelmed, and what method what do you do when you get overwhelmed?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't get overwhelmed, you're probably not human. I mean, I think that happens to all of us. It just matters how much you give into it. So for the most part, I'll let it soak in. I mean, there's probably in the past, I allow myself to be more robotic, and then it would just kind of all bubble up at one time. Right. I think now if I get frustrated, I just take a break, relax for a second, and then know either that day, right, I need to work out really hard, or if I can allow it to kind of fester for a little bit longer, make sure first thing in the morning that I'm hitting the gym and burning myself out.
So completely detaching yourself from work is your way. Okay.
Completely detach myself, from work. I mean, I think it allows, like, even like a nice jog or a nice workout, you start getting your mind off things, and allows you to think more, allows you to kind of break down what happened the day before.
Oh yeah, I can definitely identify with that. I now do morning walks every morning, and like I used to do like 15 minutes. Yeah, no big deal. Now it's like 45 minutes. It's like I have to, and it used to be, okay, I'm going to play music or play a podcast and like get that thing off my list that I want to listen to. And now it's just quiet. That's all I do.
Right.
Yeah. It's like so much better though, because it like you just take in everything that's going on in your brain and not necessarily doing anything. You're just like walking,
For podcasts, I'll listen to podcasts while I'm jogging or working out. Like, it's so funny because even when I'm lifting, I'll listen to podcasts, and I'll listen to stuff, but I'm kind of zoning out, taking it in, kind of just like in the back of my head. And then next thing I know, I'll come up with an idea that has no real correlation to what they were talking about. But I was like, oh my gosh! And then I text myself, and I'm just like, okay, when I sit down again, I got to look into this thing. So just.
Yeah, I think that's part of why I don't. Well, like, I definitely identify with that, because I'll get an idea, or I'll hear a good quote or a good like suggestion, like of what I need to do, or some idea will happen, but I'll be on a walk. I don't have my notebook. I don't really want to keep my phone out just for security reasons. I don't know. I'm walking in my neighborhood, but you never know who's watching you if you're doing this every day, right? So I try to keep everything just like focused on my dog and the walk, but if it does you get all these ideas when you're walking, and it's crazy how, that just changes after a while. It's just like, I just need to be, it's like, I can't do all the things all the time, and that, I think it's very easy to do that. So I do want to talk also a little bit about, this transition into digital. You did your podcast in person, like you used to visit people's businesses and talk to them about their journey. And for those who don't know, Vinnie does the Road to Growth podcast, and you can find that on all the major platforms. And the link to that will also be in the notes if you're looking at this video. So now that you can't go to people's businesses, can you talk a little bit about how you've embraced utilizing digital tools to do this? Are you doing it for your podcast, or is it just for your business right now?
Yeah, so I actually started getting to Zoom before this. So I have like 10 episodes now. And I started last January. So I want to say maybe like 4 months ago, I started doing Zoom, maybe 5 months ago. But I started doing Zoom because I started getting people asking me, hey, I know someone would be great in your podcast, but they are not here locally in San Diego. Do you have interest? And I started talking, I'm like, oh my gosh, that person would be a great person to have on there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to go digital because I don't know. I feel like you missed something right now.
Yeah.
But I think I'm getting better at having the conversation through Zoom. In person to person, it almost brings those guards down a little bit.
Yes.
Quicker. So then I switched over, not all of it, but some of it through Zoom. And so I still do that. I'll not doing any person to person with everything going on, but once everything kind of dies down, I'll probably do a little more person to person. But then with the digital stuff, maybe about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, maybe 2.5 weeks ago, I started doing StreamYard and really pushing my live stuff really hard. So this is the platform that we're actually recording through right now.
Yes.
And I'm doing like YouTube. I'm doing like 3 or 4 live videos a week now through the platform.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit before I hit record about, kind of you now putting that as a task in terms of cleaning up your digital profile and stuff like that. I mean, is it something where you were just too overwhelmed and you put it on your list of things to do and never got to it? Or is it now something you feel like you need to prioritize or teach your team to do that too? Not necessarily you.
For the most part, most of the people I've come across, I've talked to them, and in real estate at least, the online stuff, unless you have a really good call to action, is mostly branding, right? It's not basically a hook to get the business and now business, right?
Right. So
I always feel bad when I'm not prospecting, when I'm not calling, when I'm not face-to-face with people. Right? So the digital stuff of having the quote-unquote branding, right? The online business card. Like, well, I can put that on the back burner. I'd rather actually go get on the phone, call someone, do some cold calling, dive deeper, just like that, instead of actually focusing on a new website or focus on doing the live or whatever it might be. So I kept on having that on my task list. And every week and a half, I'd go, okay, well, I'm going to just push this back a week later or 2 weeks later, pushing it back. And then finally, with everything going on, I was like, well, I guess it's not time to push it back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I talk to a lot of business owners all the time, every day. And that is always the thing, it's always the online thing that's just, I'll get to it. And I think it's a mix of knowing where you are best utilized. I think you do really good in-person stuff. You're good at the handshakes and kissing babies and stuff like that, but I think, a lot of people just don't ever prioritize it, but now that everyone's online, it's almost like you have to have it. And you're right about the call to action, because I think a lot of people think that, well, why am I doing this? What is the point of having this? And I think that's where a lot of people just stop doing it, or even trying to do it, because they don't have a website, or they don't have a call to action or a program or whatever. But like, it's really just also about people and you getting you getting to tell your story and share it.
Getting in front of them. I mean,
yeah.
I totally agree. So talking about StreamYard again, where you can go out from multiple platforms. So I had to, I was like, okay, well, I can do 2 platforms simultaneously, or I can do up to 5, right? By paying for the different platforms.
Right.
Well, I'll get it, whatever. I'll do the 5. You know, you never know. You can probably do that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to get on a Twitch account. And so I started figuring out what Twitch was. I've never heard of it. I was like, I figured there was no real estate stuff on this. But whatever.
Right.
You know what? First mover advantage, whatever. It doesn't hurt. It's not like I'm doing more time on it. So I put the account together. And I was like, all right, well, I never really did a Periscope. Okay, well, let me build an account. Let me see. Oh, there's not really real estate on it, but you know, whatever. First mover advantage. So I had a mini win a couple days ago on Periscope. Someone was watching one of my open house videos, live open house videos. I was asking about the pricing, square footage, that kind of stuff. Like, wow, I'm actually getting a view on Periscope. I never actually had an account on Periscope, and now I'm getting a view on it. So
yeah,
nothing, no new lead, nothing like that, but just the idea that someone was watching me on a platform I never had access to or never had was kind of fun.
That's a small win to, I think, pat yourself on the back for, because it's not necessarily, you never know. They might think about you later on. They might think about you when someone's talking about real estate in their friend group, and then think about you because they just saw you recently. You know, you never know. So talk about embracing new platforms. I know that you've now embraced TikTok. So
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about like how you've utilized that to like, one, help your brand online, and then was there a learning curve, or, you know, talk about your experience with TikTok?
Yeah. So I was listening to, Gary Vee. I didn't even know who Gary Vee was as of last January before I got the podcast going. I was sitting down with that past client. Yeah. And they're like, you should really listen to Gary Vee. I was like, who? Gary Vee? And they're like, yeah, Gary. And then I had to Google it. And I was like, I think the same person, Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, it's the same person. I was like, all right. And so I started listening to his stuff. And then he was talking about the idea of TikTok. And I was like, I've heard other people kind of talk about it. And so what I started doing, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to at least download the app. I'm going to download the app. And I was watching the stuff. Just watching random stuff. I was like, I think it's like 80% like 20-somes and younger. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I think he said he was like first mover advantage. Same thing with Instagram. And then the first thing was Facebook, you know, and then you start going in older database. And I was like, I guess that makes sense. I guess I can start doing it. And so I kind of started figuring things out and like, oh, okay, this. And now I make it fun. I just try little things. And then I post it on like Instagram. And for the most part, people, they get the sense of humor, and it has a correlation to real estate lease.
Right. Yeah. And I think, that, well, one, you're comfortable on camera, like you've done it, you've done that stuff. And I think a lot of people will not embrace it because they feel like they have to be on camera, or how do I make this relatable to real estate, and how does it get me a sale? But it isn't always necessarily directly related to a sale. It's top of mind, right? Like I'm always going to think about Vinnie if someone talks about real estate, right?
Yeah,
that's the goal.
I think the one thing that gets under my skin a little bit, and that's, there's a lot of things that I see in the industry where it gets kind of under my skin a little bit. So I'm very self-aware of not doing it, maybe even to a fault, right? And so I see people like the post, got a client, got a deal where we just passed the contingencies, and it just closed. And you're just like, so they're constantly posting about real estate, and it's the same deal over and over, right? Just in a different way of describing it. And I go, oh my gosh, like you're putting the same content out there, put the same content out there. So I go, you can put the real estate stuff out there, and throw something funny out there. Throw something funny that has a correlation to real estate, because it's showing your personality type. And people want to work with similar people like you. So if you have humor, if that's your the way you talk to people, then throw something a little funny out there. If you're very analytical, well, then throw some analytical videos out there describing, I don't know, why you choose this bar of soap compared to that bar of soap.
Right.
And how that bar of soap can correlate to your house. Like, I don't know. I think it doesn't actually have to be basically about the real estate process, but at least is your personality, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is personal brand. And I think a lot of people are afraid to classify themselves like that as business owners or part of a team or whoever. Like their personal brand does infiltrate like business or influence who you do business with. And I think that's one of the things people fail to understand.
Give an example, right? So we're going to actually use the video, right?
Okay.
Are we? Okay,
yeah.
So I started doing the live, right? I started doing the live videos.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, why don't you just put like a different screen behind you, right? So people can't see what's behind you, right?
Yeah.
I got some workout equipment right there. I'm like, because I work out here, and me and my girlfriend work out here in the morning, but and then they have a Padre thing right there, 98 champions, right?
Yeah.
Sadly, never a World Series win. But anyways, that's a sad story for another time.
Yeah.
But so they're like, why don't you put something back there? I go, I'm a big Padre fan. You know what I mean? I love baseball. I'm gonna leave this back there so people get a little insight into who I am. I mean, that's just like you have. I know you're a big football fan, soccer. However,
yeah.
Whoever's listening right now,
you can say soccer, but it's football, yeah.
So I mean, you're showing who you truly are, and I think sometimes we're scared. And I've made this analogy in the past. I haven't made it more recently, but a lot of people out there, you've seen the Wizard of Oz, of course, right? Most people have seen the Wizard of Oz, right? So you have the great and powerful Oz, right? Behind the curtain, right? It's like, oh my gosh, so fantastic, so great, you know, whatever. But people are afraid to show who they really are because now, if they're not that big and powerful thing, they're just like everyone else. Then it becomes like,
wait, say it again. You cut out for a little bit. Say it again.
So I mean, the great and powerful Oz. Right, the great and powerful Oz, right? People are afraid to show behind the curtain, right? Because being behind the curtain, you show that you're just like everyone else. But if you're that great and powerful Oz right there, right, then you can do no wrong. And so if you can't do any wrong, no one's going to question who you are. And so for me, I don't want people to feel like I'm better than them. I'm just like you. I just might have a better understanding of this platform right here of real estate than you, but you probably have a better understanding of other platforms from me.
Right. Yeah, no, and I think that's a really good analogy. I think you know, it's what people are, well, and also now that we're all digital, like this is like conversation topics now. Like that 98 poster, I've seen it in almost every one of your pieces of social media, like content, whatever. But like I'm like, oh man, like Vinnie gets it. Like he likes sports, right? And we could, if I was, you know, didn't know you and wasn't friendly with you, like I knew that I could bond with you over sports and then eventually business potentially, you know, like who knows what that comes, you know, what that would bring about. But you're right. Like now I used to have a green screen and this thing is like holding up, the scarves are holding up the thing that holds the green screen. Like I'm just like not using the green screen anymore. You know, it's like, I was so worried about like the back of like how my office looks. And I'm like, why? Like, it's me, you know, just if you focus on what you're giving, like it really doesn't matter much, you know.
Does this date me at all? But for some reason, I keep on looking at the red scarf right there, right? The red scarf you have right there. And I go, hey, he kind of looks like Ryan Seacrest. I have no clue why that popped up.
This guy. No, it does look like him. But it's not him.
Yeah, I know it wasn't, but I was like, oh man. I thought it was funny.
That's funny. This one is this. I almost should do a whole show on like all my scarves because they all have stories, you know. And I think that, you know, it's very. I think a lot of people are, you know. Ooh, nice.
Oh, that's really good.
Nice. So yeah, but yeah, you know, back to the background and, you know, just talking about your story. And you're not always, I think people are very scared to talk about themselves or show who they are because they don't want to be judged for that. But people are judging you no matter what. So you might as well be yourself.
Well, I thought one of the funniest ones, someone was like, I forgot, maybe it was Joe Rogan. I don't know who it was, but he was like, it's so funny how people are just like, they take a picture with no makeup on. They're like, no filter. Oh my gosh, you're so brave. You're so brave you did that. That's just like,
Yeah, that sounds like something Joe Rogan would say. Oh man. So now that you're like a TikTok master, you're kind of like into live streaming, what is next on your like what do you foresee you embracing some more once we can get back to a little bit more of a, in-person stuff? Do you feel like it's still going to be part of your arsenal of
Yeah, I mean, I think now that I've done it, I have to basically keep it consistent. So I'll fit this stuff into my routine. I mean, I don't foresee other technology currently that I'll incorporate, but I think the stuff that I've picked up over the last couple weeks, that I'll keep doing this consistently. And then, incorporate the other stuff, the face-to-face stuff with that. But yeah, I think this time has allowed me to kind of grow and figure out technologies that would be beneficial for me. And the crazy thing is with real estate is there's so many shiny objects that come out every couple months, every month, every couple weeks. So be very aware not to get swayed by the shiny object,
right?
And have understanding what your base is, what your core beliefs are, kind of what you're going to do on a daily basis to make your life easier. Yeah,
that's a very good point. I think, you can have all the tools in the world, but if you don't know or understand what you're doing your business for, or why you're doing your business, then it doesn't really help. So if people want to connect with you, they can connect with your Instagram, the Enriquez Group. And you're obviously on all the socials, so they just can Google you. And you're at Vinnie SD, right, on Twitter?
Yeah. If you Google Vinnie in San Diego, I mean, or Vinnie Realtor San Diego, or Vinnie, and I know it's different because sometimes I'll Google on other people's computers, or I'll Flash to see where it sits. But it's fairly easy to find Realtor in San Diego, Vinnie. I think there's one other guy in San Diego, and I think he's Asian. So
okay, so there is some distinction. I mean, that's pretty good. Just Googling Vinnie Realtor and getting all your results, that'd be awesome. And your podcast is Road to Growth. You can just Google Road to Growth podcast. I'm sure it'll come up. And obviously Vinnie's number is there on the screen. If you want to connect with him, he'll put you with the right person, or or take care of you if you're looking to buy a home, right? So thank you, Vinnie, for joining us. I really do appreciate it. If anyone would like to talk to Vinnie, you have his number there, and it'll also be in the show notes.
Can I say one thing? I'm going to say one thing before I appreciate Marisa having me on here. I thought it was I wasn't even aware of this. I think it was really impressive how much you fought for the charges in San Diego. And that's kind of, how you met some other people locally in San Diego. But I mean, it shows at least how passionate you are about basically a topic. And when you're passionate about something, you're going to dive deeper in there. And so I would only assume, we haven't worked together, right? But I would only assume you'd be as passionate with your clients as you are with basically what you love, your different sports. So well,
I really appreciate that. Yeah, I was, that's another story. That's a podcast for another day. It's a whole story, but yeah, I do appreciate that. And thank you for spending time with me today and telling me a little bit. I learned something new. I didn't know you were in Afghanistan, and I've known you this whole time. So thank you for sharing.
I don't talk about it much. It gave me perspective though. And it was,
Well, that's good. Well, we'll maybe have you on another episode when we hear more about that story. So again, if you want to contact Vinnie, there's his number there on the screen. It'll also be in the show notes. And you can find him on Google, Vinnie Realtor San Diego. You'll find him, as well as Road to Growth podcast. Thank you again.
Perfect. Thank you.
This is the Business AF podcast, where it's all business most of the time. You can listen on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can subscribe to us on YouTube at businessafpod.com. If you like what you hear and you want to let people know, don't forget to tag us using #BusinessAF.